what's the business? What do you guys do?
Well, why don't we start with the name? Andrew will explain what Pakira Inc. and what Pakira is.
Would you like me to describe the name of the company?
Yes, the name.
The name, Pakira, is a 60-foot tall tree that, if remained in a small container, can live its whole life only being 1 foot tall. And so at Pakira, we believe in unleashing potential and recognizing the constraints of the environment. And that's what we hope to bring to business, our employees, and others, and kind of unleashing the potential of those we're working with. Exactly.
Yeah, but what is the business that you're unleashing or not unleashing?
And so Pakira is also in Japanese, it translates to the money tree, which is the tree of prosperity, and that is what we intend to bring to the customers and the world. So in terms of what Pakira does, everything in that, if we look around, everything that we live in, that we wear, that we eat, comes from physical commodities in the ground, like cotton and corn and iron, and those physical commodities comprise 1/4 of all trade worldwide, $20 trillion. And yet today, the trading of all of these physical commodities throughout their entire business-to-business supply chain is conducted primarily over the phone. So we together founded Pakira to bring physical commodity trading into the 21st century by building an online trading platform, as you would think. And of course, why is it 2020 and we don't have one? That is the question.
Wait a minute. Okay. So, but aren't there online trading platforms, or is this a very focused
That wasn't
one?
the question, David. She said what the question was.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening. What did she say?
She already asked the question.
Well, I'm ignoring that.
There are many,
we're not ready for that question.
Trading platforms for all kinds of things under the planet. For example, financial instruments, as we know them, all the kinds of asset classes are online. If you want to trade stocks or bonds or commodity futures, which are financial instruments, all that is online. Now we're talking about things. We're trading things. B2C, you think of Amazon. B2B, you think of Alibaba, et cetera, your medical, office, anything, you name it, there's an online trading platform.
Okay, so where do you fit in?
We are now talking about physical commodities. Physical commodities are what you bring from the ground, and they're traded in truckloads, train cars, vessels, enormous quantities that are completely B2B, and way before what you think of as retail, or let's say, oh, I want to get a few parts somewhere. This is pre all of that.
Does it include pork bellies?
So it's raw ingredients.
You always ask that. It does include pork bellies, but the reason people think of pork bellies is because on the Chicago Commodities Exchange, there is a financial instrument that trades pork belly futures.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost never get delivered. It's all speculative. We are talking about commodity trading on the ground, moving a shipload, a whole vessel.
Shitload.
Shipload. This is a family podcast.
Not this one.
No, not anymore.
From, say, Vancouver to Beijing.
Yeah.
And even though you and I can sit in Boston and New York and make the trade and shake hands, the product will move something from Canada to Vancouver, or from let's say Eastern Canada to Vancouver, and then from Vancouver to Beijing, and you and I are sitting right here, right? So there's a lot of complexity in that industry, and as Andrew discovered when he came across that whole commodity trading. Maybe you want to hear Andrew's story.
Well, before we do, I just want to see if I can really get this in all seriousness. So you've got a platform that's enabling raw materials and other commodities to be traded. Does that mean you're managing the money, or is it really like a stock market or an options trading market?
We are managing we are facilitating the buyers and sellers to A, find each other, B, to negotiate, which is a very complex aspect. Then you want all kinds of banking and insurance services because these deals are hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in one transaction, and they get delivered over the course of months, and they get paid over the course of 3 to 6 to 9 months with payment terms, and everything's insured and so on. So we enable all that plus the underlying transportation. Now, mind you, we are a software company. We don't build the transportation fleets. We don't. We're not a bank. We're not insurance. So we're partnering with all these services to provide to the customer in an all-in-one solution.
You're a new age eBay for commodities, then.
Sorry?
What?
You're a new age eBay for commodities, then.
We like to call ourselves, for the financial industry, the Bloomberg terminal for commodities trading.
Got it.
I was going to say you guys are enablers.
Exactly. Yep.
We
enable you to grow into your full potential.
Well, that was a political. Mine was a political reference.
I know a commodity that's a bucket of.
Wait a minute. Mine was the political. You were not. I guess my point is you're not political enablers. You're enablers of business.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you do diamonds or no? They come out of the ground.
Not we. It does fall into the Bakira mission. However, it's not currently on our radar. We have identified a sequence of vertical sectors that we will be addressing. And given Andrew's background, which he hasn't told you about yet, but he will, we are starting with wood, which is lumber in North America, so US and Canada, and then moving to pulp. And by the way, pulp, besides paper and absorbent products, it also goes into textiles and PPE, very, very high commodity these days. And then we have scrap metal, fruits and vegetables, grains.
This is all B2B. This is all B2B.
Precisely. Yes.
I mean, millions of dollars per transaction.
Right. So why does Alibaba not handle this?
Great question.
They work a lot with parcels, and you'll find that across the complexity of these transactions is a lot of what we're dealing with and what we're building into our platform. And you need a certain degree of transparency that's kind of not built into that market.
So Andrew, we've been teasing this for a while. What's your background?
Oh, thank you for asking. So my background is, if we're to take it all the way back, I studied finance, quantitative finance, and I stumbled into this commodities trading field because at the time I was studying quantitative finance and learning how these trades were happening over the millisecond. And I just took an interview at this one company and opened my eyes to the world of physical commodities trading, how it all happened over the phone, and how people were making hundreds of calls a day to maybe close one order. And I saw all the pain, the struggle they were working in. I said, I have to dive in. So that's when I dove in, learned that industry, got the experience there, worked specifically in the industry on similar things. And then eventually I said, either someone else is going to build this once I knew what had to be done, or I will. And so.
Where were you based?
Nashua, New Hampshire, of all places.
There's commodities training going on up there?
You wouldn't believe it some nondescript buildings up there.
Andrew
$3
worked
billion
at the
company.
$3 billion commodities trading company that specializes in lumber internationally, but starting with North.
What is the best known commodities trading company out there?
There aren't many because they're all behind. If you were to go by revenue, you'd think of commodities, physical commodities firms. You think of your Glencores or your Cargill, automotive companies. Yeah, so that's kind of on some of the scale that some companies are working with. I was with the. So Andrew is with one of the big trading companies in the U.S. Again, however, I would like to
qualify or maybe adjust David's question a little bit. Ooh. In the sense that it's not only, it is primarily the companies who are the producers. Like, take the lumber industry, the sawmills or the manufacturers or the wholesaler distributors or the retail at the end. They're the ones that trade directly with each other. Only a fraction of the trades go through traders. So we're not just enabling the traders because that's a fraction of the industry. They are an important link in our supply chain. We are enabling everybody who buys and sells at the commodity level. And so
who's going to be upset by you?
Nobody.
Who's going to be upset is the low performers at most offices when their accounts can be given to the high performers because they can now service 10 times as many clients as before.
So you're disrupting just like the dude that's at Cargill, that's kind of there on the trading desk?
No, we are disrupting the companies. The little small companies, most of them are mom and pop shops that are trading on the lack of real-time information. And so they sell directories that they of who's in the industry, a small subset of them that they update every year. There are some businesses that give you a week-old or 3-day-old spot prices for specific regions. They make 10 calls and they write things down and then they fax you this information. So it's incredible to think, but this is what happens in 2018, 2019, 2020, it happens today. And so when we bring all that online real time, these kind of information trading businesses will go away, or they can partner with us and do real research through the real-time data.
Is there money in arbitrage, to the extent I understand that, and are you eliminating it?
It's more of the information arbitrage.
Not necessarily.
We're not necessarily eliminating it. It's these companies that if you were to find out what the price of, we were talking about lumber.
Pork bellies.
Yeah, you find an actual truckload, an actual rail car of pork bellies delivered into you.
Boatload of pork bellies.
A boatload of pork bellies delivered into you. There is no way to find out what the best price delivered into you is. There's no way to really find out what would be competitive. Like if I gave you an offer for $300 today, is that good? Is that bad? Is that better than yesterday? Is that worse than yesterday? And so that's where we're coming in. We're coming in to offer more timely information. We're offering.
So wait a minute. So let me understand this. So say there's a boatload of pork bellies in Wuhan that would get shipped to Beijing at a certain price, and there's a trader in Beijing. So this is the arbitrage thing, isn't it? Where the trader in Beijing has knowledge of Wuhan's pricing and Chicago pricing and takes advantage of the differential to make a buck as a middleman. Now, aren't you enabling the pork belly maker, which I guess is a pork farm or a pig farm, the pig farmer in Wuhan to go straight to Chicago, and you're eliminating the Beijing leg of that trip?
So they're not going
Beijing
straight
belly.
to Chicago. They're not going straight to Chicago. I think we're confounding here, again, the financial instrument, which is a contract on pork bellies that gets traded on the Chicago Commodities Exchange, versus the actual delivery from Wuhan to wherever they're trying to sell it to, that actually goes on the ground with transportation through various points, changes from trucks to vessels, etc. So that is what we are enabling. We're not touching the financial instruments.
I get that. I didn't mean to imply that, but there are a lot of middlemen and women along the way that get the pork belly from Wuhan. There are intermediate level traders who are being eliminated.
They are actually participants in our supply chain. So one thing we started saying, this is trading the physical commodities from the ground. We're actually enabling the entire supply chain, like I said, from the producers from the ground, whether they're agriculture, livestock, mining, logging, whatever, to the next level, which is usually mills, to the next level, which is manufacturers.
Well, why do you need all that? Why, wait a minute. So you're talking about...
This is how the supply chain works. And right now, like with COVID-19, I think the supply chain has become a household term. Everybody knows supply chains are bad, they're weak, they're disrupted, they're very fragile. We can't get this. These people have lots and lots of businesses went bankrupt, whereas the same people who need those products can't get them, and so on. Why? There is no real-time trading. There's no real-time information.
So maybe I'm missing something here, but I'm going to persist. So am I correct that you could get pork bellies from Wuhan to Chicago?
Who is you?
Yeah.
Am I correct that there are pork bellies that move in quantity from Wuhan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And they go to Chicago so people can write books like The Jungle Book or whatever that was called. Remember that thing by, what was that book? It was called The Jungle Book, wasn't it?
I wouldn't know. I haven't read that particular book.
Whatever it was called. It was the one about the 1930s book about the factories in Chicago, and the guy saw the people's fingers getting cut off, and he wrote about it. And then everyone realized that's why you don't want to see them making sausage. That's where that came from.
Maybe I heard the reference in an Al Capone movie or so. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, so getting back, we know that pork bellies move as a commodity en masse from Wuhan or somewhere in China to Chicago, and undoubtedly there is value add along the way, probably not by the transport, but by the person who takes the live little piggy and guts it and turns it into a hanging carcass. But after it turns into a hanging carcass that's frozen, it pretty much just moves, right? And
Yes.
I'm assuming in the current state of affairs.
Can we find a different set of analogies? As a lifelong vegetarian, I'm about to lose my lunch.
Okay. So while the little
David, now that I've intentionally interrupted you with my pitiful plea, they're a software platform. Forget about pigs and bellies and carcasses.
But that's but the reason this business is going to work, as I understand it, and I want to be corrected when I'm wrong, is because once
Nobody
the
has
value
that
add,
much time in life.
Once the value add is done, for example, the people who gut the little piggies and turn them into carcasses, the people who do those add value. But there's a lot of people along the food chain, There's a lot of people along the chain who are simply intermediaries who who don't add much value other than to, for example, get carcasses from a lot of different farms in Wuhan.
You're getting lost.
But she's enabling their businesses, getting rid of all those intermediary, non-value added players.
I think you didn't get it.
Why not?
I think let me try this really quickly, and then you can correct us both.
Get closer to your mic.
No. It's either your eBay, your Uber, you're matching buyers and sellers, and you've got this website or this platform. Hang on. I let you go through the bellies. You've got this this platform that provides the pricing and allows people to make these trades, which to me is no different than Uber matching a passenger and driver.
That doesn't help me. Keep going. What happened to the intermediary guy?
Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, if I might, I think you're not giving some credit where credit's due for value. So we have to define value add. You said non-value add. There are many ways in which every player in the market adds value. Today, it's a very competitive marketplace, even without our platform. If you're not adding actual value in the marketplace today, you're gone. You don't exist.
No, that's not true. Let me ask you this.
Some arbitrage opportunities where, maybe if we want any added efficiencies coming in, those people might be in trouble because they're not adding any value. But the middlemen and saying middlemen in general don't add value isn't true because there's wholesale.
Well, how about ocean spray? Let's talk about cranberries. Mark likes cranberries because they're vegetarian. Yeah. Okay, so as I understand it, Ocean Spray is really a farmers collective. Is a collective of farmers. So the individual farmer could probably sell me cranberries, but it's not efficient right now. So what the individual farmer does is he works with the Ocean Spray collective, and they bag them up in those nice little bags of raw cranberries, and then they make a deal with the major grocery chains. I can walk in on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with my mask on and buy the little bag as opposed to dealing with a farmer.
Yeah.
Right?
So we help all, you skipped a couple steps, but that's okay. So as Andrew was stating,
trying to say,
No, he was
there.
actually stating that at every point where the product goes through, there is a value add that happens. That value add may be in production, manufacturing, some kind of processing. It may be in wholesaling because you're a distributor that allows, let's say, the grocery chain to have a whole variety of choices rather than going to 20 places. You're offering it all, right? So that's the wholesaling adding value. The traders, that they add another value in the sense that traders are reputable companies and they can ensure the reputation of the source where it's coming. And if you're doing it directly at any point in the supply chain, that's fine. If you know somebody who you've been trading with for 20 years, that's great. But when you get stuck and the supply chain gets disrupted, how am I going to know that Mark Thurman is not going to stand me up for $1 million? I mean, it's like, he seems nice and everything, but you would be surprised how often fraud happens, given the lack of transparency, given the size of the deals, given how long things take, and given these like, the world is so interconnected. So all of these problems are the problems that we are trying to solve.
Going back to the little piggy example, will all the same players be involved in the food chain or in the supply chain from Wuhan to Chicago using your system?
So we're absolutely enabling traders like Andrew. Instead of making 100 calls a day, he'll just be sitting on our Pakira terminal, right? Think Bloomberg terminal, and communicate with a bunch of people at the same time, make the deals through smart contracts and other value adds using technology, and also have guarantees, be able to use insurance, be able to do the escrow through banks, be able to contract with transportation services through other other service providers for us, like the digital freight services and so on. So it's an all-in-one solution. That's why when Mark was comparing it to Uber or whatever, think those guys are primarily B2C. One, we're B2B, and two, think of the Bloomberg terminal. It's an all-in-one solution for everything you may need to make a trade.
Yeah, but they're just, I don't think Bloomberg's facilitating trades. They're just collecting news and collecting pricing information and presenting it as the then current status of the whatever the asset is. But it sounds like what you're saying is that you are involved in all parts of the supply chain, which will beg the question of how do you make money? Because if you're not doing the arbitrage, you're either charging a platform fee or a monthly fee, or you're getting a percentage of something that occurs on your platform. So maybe that'll help define the platform better if we know how you make money.
Yeah, so all of the above, but very gradually. And the first, as we go back to Andrew's point, we have to provide value. The customers need to realize that there's value and it's sticky, and that's where they want to remain rather than going back to the 100 phone calls a day. And when they remain there, they will define the pricing for us, if you will.
So wait a minute. So let's go back to so let me ask a question. Pardon?
Pork bellies again, David?
Oh, always. So I've just opened a new meat packing plant in Chicago.
Why is it always meat? How about lumber? A lumber processing plant.
Oh, that's
I like
not
that
as graphic.
Because you've got
Andrew had an idea. Hold on, Andrew. What did you say?
I was asking you, how can I help?
Oh, okay. So now I just opened a new meat packing plant. And I realized
this podcast, that's how you can help.
In order to pack meat, I actually need meat. So I need like carcasses. Oh. And so I log into my Bloomberg terminal, which is your terminal. I log into the terminal.
The Pakira terminal.
Okay, I log into the Pakira terminal, and I say, okay, I need a carcass. I need I need a truckload of carcasses that are frozen, of pork having this qualities. So I can find out the next man down, company down in the food chain, so to speak, and I can find, there's turned out to be 5 of them. And instead of spending all day on the phone finding a company that can ship me a truckload of carcasses, which I could do, right? That's what the whole point of this is. Couldn't I say, screw this. I bet if I ordered the damn things, the little piggies live from, from Wuhan, I would be in much better shape. So could I actually sort of bypass all the intermediate levels of the food chain and order the little piggies live? And would you guys?
Well,
go ahead.
you can, however, that's not what you do for a living. You don't want, you are set up to get the carcasses, to process them into some can, and then, or some other
Spam.
frozen meat.
Also a vegetarian, so excuse her.
It's all right.
Okay, but taking it back, could I go instead and find, okay, so I'm getting it.
Well,
so I wouldn't go log into the Bakira terminal and go all the way to Wuhan farmers. I might actually find suppliers in Beijing who could who would say, oh, talk about truckloads. I got like factory fulls of these damn carcasses. And instead of going through all the middlemen, if you want me to send you a truckload, just make an order for 100 of them, and Bakira, in all of its magic, will get the stuff transported over to you.
Not quite.
Less magic, but
not quite. So again, let us restate the supply chain. We are not changing it. The supply chain exists. It's a physical supply chain. Mm-hmm. It exists for a reason, because every link in the supply chain, from the source, the cows that are being grazed, we'll go with your analogy, with your meat and dairy, right? So there's different sectors. You chose meat and dairy. We can choose meat and dairy. That's fine. So from the cows to the
pork.
The pigs to the slaughterhouse, right? That's the processing plant, primary processing plant. Then the carcasses go to another secondary processing plant, and then they go, depending on whether they go to commercial or they do more processing to some packaging, and then they go to commercial or retail distribution. From commercial or retail distribution, then they go to the retail or commercial.
I get it. That's the current way it works.
And this will always work that way, because every link in the supply chain has its own business, and it's a manufacturing, hands-on, physical business, and it has machines and skills and people, and that is what they do.
So what would happen if, given the power of a computer, some 10-year-old...
Really asking, can we take one supply chain and vertically integrate it?
Yeah.
Some companies do that, but that's a whole different business, and they can participate in our Bakira platform as well. But it's not changing and saying, hey, you 2,000 little guys, go up and vertically integrate with your friends. I mean, that's a whole different question. It's completely orthogonal to us enabling these 2,000 little guys plus the 300 big guys plus the 5 primary, big players in that supply chain to interoperate and trade with each other. That is what we are enabling. Mm-hmm. It is a very complex business, and therefore, unlike Alibaba, Mark, or you're asking Alibaba that you go and search for the iPad cover or the iPhone X screw or whatever, and I want 100 of these because I'm doing a little teenage production plant in my house or something, right? Unlike that, you have to be part of an industry. You have to be reputable in that industry. So the Bakira platform is not for everybody in these physical commodities. It is per sector. So if you're doing meat and dairy, you have to go to meat and dairy. Like the first platform we're enabling is lumber. You have to be lumber. And if you go log in, first of all, you're going to claim your profile, which you will already have your company magically, because we make magic, and the employees and what you trade and all these things about the company. You're going to find yourself there. It's public information, but nobody has it, but we do. And you're going to claim your platform, and you're going to say, I'd like to register. We're going to say, great. We're going to take 24 to 48 hours to vet you. And if you get approved, you become a vetted customer of the platform. So everyone, Mark, you're going to be dealing with is A, going to be in lumber, B is going to be vetted. Nothing is ever 100%, but then the customers are going to rate you. We made this deal. Mark sucked. He brought sorry, David sucked. I mean,
That's okay. Pork bellies. I'm all about pork bellies.
Pork is great.
And the product was right on time, but David delivered the damn pork bellies like
So
two weeks
so you're now adding the Yelp sort of feedback loop.
Absolutely. Absolutely, which is extremely difficult to do in B2B, but because we are initially vetting the businesses and they have to already be in our system in order to get in, that is one level of assurance, one level of insurance that people pay for, that they're not dealing with a fraudster.
So we get to your revenue model. Your model sounds like if I join, I'm joining and paying you something to be listed or be on your platform. Are you also getting, as part of your model, a percentage of the trade?
Not right now. So first,
it's just subscription platform to be listed.
Yeah.
So you're like, what were those big books? Thomson, I think, and a few others had these big registers in different vendor areas. Are you sort of in that world?
So I feel like this. I feel like.
However, the big transition, like speaking of the revenue model, is the reason these supply chains are so fragile, and because they are static. Things change, like COVID-19 happened, like all the commercial food venues closed, and yet all these distributors and producers were delivering to them. They went out of business. They have a ton of product. They were just throwing it out and putting it in landfills. But meanwhile, the supermarket demand has gone 2x because people are still eating, and they can't find enough suppliers to supply this. Why? It's lack of information. So what we are going to be, our revenue model is data, real-time data, and you can subscribe to it, the current real-time stock prices at a very rudimentary level. But if you want to drill down for your region, drill down for a sub-product, and so on, then that will be tiered subscription levels. And the biggest consumers and payers for data in the world are the financial industry, which need it in order to do all these speculative financial instruments like the pork belly contracts. So Andrew was telling me how they would hang out on the trading floor, and they'd have the Chicago, various lumber contracts on the screen. And they'd be laughing that they're a week behind what's happening on the ground.
Okay, so
we will be bridging that gap with it.
I'm still struggling. I sort of got the model now.
Because you're overthinking it. I think it's a software platform that enables trades and information.
Yeah. That's a sort of light, dismissive analysis of it. Just to nail this down.
It's respectful.
What you're providing is, rather than, I can get all the information that you're giving me. That is at each step along the food chain for my pork belly.
You cannot. You have to make 100 phone calls.
No, that's my point. I could get that information. So I have to decide the following. So I'm setting up a shop in New Hampshire where I'm going to do either lumber or pork bellies, and I'm going to focus just on those. And I can either
fit together.
I guess it really doesn't matter. Say I'll be back in Chicago, and I've got my meat processing plant, and I'm not going to go straight back to Wuhan. I know my place in the food chain, and I know that I really need to follow toe the line. So I will do that. But now I have a choice. Do I hire 20 people to make 400 calls a day so I can get who has the truckload of pork bellies that are ready to ship to me at the right price? I can do that. I can pay those people, 20 people making 200 calls a day, or I can invest with you folks and I can hire one person to run the terminal.
Can we say bingo, high five?
Yes.
Hey, there we go. So now I got that. And now in addition to that, you vetted everybody. You're therefore willing to insure the deal.
And moreover, David, you can do it on both sides. Almost everybody in the B2B commodity supply chain buys and sells. So you have purchasers that are buying from Wuhan or wherever, but you also have your salespeople that are now selling it also in the commodity wholesale quantities, right? We are, the whole supply chain is ours, except for retail. Retail buys in wholesale, but then sells to consumer, and that we don't care about.
Okay, so am I correct that the win for I think the win is, I'll argue that the information could be available to me when I open my little factory, as long as I hire 20 people who are willing to make 200 calls a day. I can get the same information within reason, and that's going to cost.
You're not going to get the same information, but you will be able to conduct your business with the 20 purchasers and the 20 salespeople.
Correct. Yes. So I can use you folks instead. So then I guess the question is, when you make your pitch to me as I open my new little meat processing plant, what's your pitch to me? Look, we're a pricey service and we add a lot. Not only do we get all this information for you, we'll ensure the transactions. That's what we're in the business for. And sure, you're going to end up paying X dollars a truckload extra to get that information both on the incoming side, the goes in or goes outer side. But it turns out if you hired the people to do that, it would cost you even more. So how do you make that particular pitch?
So we make the pitch in two ways. The baseline pitch is you get access to real-time information. It's real time. It's not like, oh, I reached this person and that's the last thing that he did and whatever. It's real time because there's thousands of people trading, and we have AI and the software platform, and you can just average for spot prices and so on. So A, real-time information. B, you have insurance that you can subscribe to predictive to predictive pricing and predictive supply and demand, because we're an AI company that will predict a lot faster than watching it happen on the ground, something like COVID-19. Not because we're geniuses, but if we know that everything already closed in California and we're sitting here and still making deals on the East Coast to bring the same amount of supplies to the commercial venues from distribution, there is something wrong, right?
What's the closest thing to this if you step away from, I don't like the Uber analogies, I don't like any of those analogies because they don't really address what you do. It's hard to believe there's not something like this in some space.
They keep saying it. It's called Bloomberg.
No, but Bloomberg doesn't allow the buy-sell. Bloomberg is an information terminal.
Yeah, so clearly, I mean, if we told you there's no competition, then we should just go back and maybe we would be eligible to join Mark's various bands instead. But
I need a tambourine player.
No, I'm just trying to get the analogy for Mark.
This is the elephant in the room. It's a huge problem. It's a $20 trillion problem. It's hard to hide. We didn't just stumble upon it. So clearly, everyone and their brother are trying to solve it. There are a bunch of failed, defunct platforms that did not succeed. There are a bunch of new ones that have raised money, some ones that are bootstrapping in different sectors, some in the US, some around the world. They each are trying their ideas or trying their strategies on how to make it click, how to convince the customers that this is it, this is where it will work, because everyone is skeptical. And how
do you succeed with that?
Yeah, so we have two aspects. One is the transactional. We have a vision of a three-dimensional vision, if you will. That all has to come together in order for this to work. One is the transactional aspect, which is everybody's thinking about. And we're making this transactional aspect all in one. So we're partnering with a lot of these services that we don't have to stand up from scratch because they already exist and they're great, like digital freight. All we need is an API from digital freight that will know that the transportation will happen. They take care of it. All we do is bring up and fold that piece of the price into the quotes, right? So there's a transactional aspect. Then there's the community aspect, and that's the vetting part. And that's people feel that they are in their community. These are the other people from all over that are like-minded. They trade together. They do things together, even though money exchanges hands. But that's the community. It's kind of like a conference for the sector where they can interact and easily chat and easily exchange information. So that's the second part. And the third part is the data, right? So we have this three-dimensional stool, if you will, to make Pekira successful. And most people are barely thinking about the transactional piece. And the first thing they think about is, all right, if you're going to sell, you pay $40. If you're going to buy, you pay $80. And see, they go and say, see, we have some money collected. We have 10 transactions done. We think it's a little bit, we're a little more farsighted than that in this all-in-one approach. So
okay, so what's the benefit? So as I'm still struggling through with analogies, let's say you're similar at the level of a given transaction. That is, I want to buy for my new Chicago meat processing plant, I want to buy that truckload of carcasses. So I'll argue that when I log in, you sort of look to me a little eBay-ish, I assume, or do I not really do I not even need to do searching because the AI says to me, hey, we noticed you logged in, you used to buy this crap, here's some more of it for you?
Yes.
Okay. So bottom line is, but that I could theoretically do the search. I could log in to say who in the next link downstream from me in the food chain has truckloads of pork, and I could see what the pricing is.
You could do everything manually that I think is described along the food chain, or the supply chain. This again seems to be a means to facilitate. Hang on, sharing of information, sharing of. Linking buyers and sellers and the folks that love
eBay does that. eBay does that. eBay. Well, no, I'm not trying to diminish this. The question is this eBay? Have you extended eBay from being just at that sort of last mile, which is B to C? You've extended it. Number one, it's B to B. It's not just the last mile. You're doing it at every mile along the route, and therefore you have information from Wuhan, where the farmer farmed the little piggy. That may help predictively in that final chain between Detroit and when the stuff gets shipped in overseas.
I think you're torturing yourself with this piggy analogy, and that's why you're confounded.
But is that true?
You're absolutely right, David. Except let's not forget why.
Never say that again.
Yeah,
those words never.
You'll never hear the end of this
again.
And Mark owes me 3 meals from that. 3 meals, all pig meat.
I will live to regret it. Well, there's not a question. Let's not forget why eBay hasn't extended itself to do all that.
Yes, great question.
Yeah, and so we go back to the fact that there is an enormous qualitative difference between these, what Andrew said, parcels, and this is what Alibaba does too, and wholesale commodities trading.
That's the key word, is wholesale.
The transportation, the insurance, the locations from which it should come, the escrow.
But eBay does all that. eBay theoretically will insure.
No, but eBay doesn't serve the wholesale market. eBay.
I know
the word wholesale that Nadia said is the key word.
30-page contract of payment terms.
Yes.
Bill of lading.
Agreed.
Well, that's what we're saying. Insurance, escrows, payment terms,
customs clearance,
transportation, $3 million, $4 million deals. You're not going to click on eBay and say, yeah, go ahead, 100K. I'm buying this.
I got it. So,
is orders of magnitude higher. Therefore, retail is great. And these, even if I'm ordering 100 chips of, for a computer, something that I'm assembling is fine.
From the new Raspberry company.
As soon as you get into physical commodities, it's a completely different.
Okay, so
here's the other thing, David, that may help. So wholesale was the key word that I unlocked the code for me. eBay, it's occasional buyers and occasional sellers. They may not ever transact together ever again. In this case, hang on, In this case, these are buyers and sellers that transact together with great frequency.
So
Right?
theoretically, eBay could have done this, but what they really...
players in
I
the
want to hear you say
industry.
Mark is right.
Mark
Oh, no,
is
you have to say, Mark, what a genius.
absolutely right. Established players in the industry. And if you come across Nadia, who you've never transacted with before, but she has good reviews from other established players who she has transacted with and delivered on time and paid on time or even early, it's like gives you much more confidence than wondering who the hell is this Nadia over the other side.
So
of the
can you make use of the fact, if let's say that out of one of these, I keep going back to Wuhan, but let's say that there's a hint that one of the batches of little piggies might have been near a little batch of bats or whatever coronavirus comes from. Do you track that information through so you could say to me when I'm back at my meat processing plant in Chicago that I look and I say, oh, this is great. I could theoretically get a truck of carcasses in from these 5 suppliers in Detroit and St. Louis, but Nadia and Andrew have told me that this one came from Wuhan's bat-infected batch. Will you track that information through?
Yes, it's not in our MVP 0, but we will. So, you know, David, hundreds of thousands of people die from illegal mining every year. More than half of the lumber that we use in the U.S. comes from illegal logging.
Oh, I like it.
And
this is great.
More than 1/3 of all food worldwide goes to landfill, is wasted and goes to landfill, further exacerbating our environmental spiral. And the culprit of all these magna ills is the lack of data for physical commodities.
Wait a minute, how did you fix that last time? I followed
We're a centralized platform. If the whole supply chain is traded through all the links in our platform, we can track the source.
Oh, but how did you handle, no, I was totally with you on the source for the blood diamonds or the blood lumber, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I get that. I didn't follow you on how you tracked that Mark every week throws away 1/3 of the stuff he buys at the grocery store.
I cannot track Mark, but I can. We can prevent the fact that with COVID-19, all those restaurants went out of business and or closed down. You no longer use the lunch cafeteria in your company, etc. And all these distributors and all these producers that were distributing to commercial went out of business and threw food into, with COVID-19, it's now no longer 1/3 of the food that's going to landfill, 2/3. 2/3.
Oh.
It took 2 months for the supply chains to get somebody else to send their produce to.
So this is a genius idea, and it's obvious why you won the MIT Enterprise Forum program that got you this fine podcast.
Startup Spotlight.
Okay, but how are the two of you going to pull off this massive effort?
Oh.
Are you going to say great question? I get great question, don't I? Because Mark owes me another meal.
Great question.
Another meal.
I mean, the greatest thing about it is that we're figuring it out. You know, it starts with meeting the founders meeting and kind of, you know, deciding to go ahead with this, to kind of throw in the towel and say, okay, we'll do it. And then it's all
throwing in the towel is not a good analogy at the beginning of a startup.
Well,
just saying.
It's a big problem, and that's why this is a big opportunity.
Yeah, but you're not throwing in the towel. That means you've ended it.
They're throwing their hat in the ring. They're throwing their hat in the ring.
Rather in the ring.
And she's going to regret this hour of her life.
Mark will never let you forget.
No.
Okay.
I have another thing in mind for throwing in the towel, but that's all right. I will explain off the air. It's okay.
There's a story here. Okay, so, but how are you doing with just two of you? For example, Mark programs, he can help you.
Andrew and I are the founders, and we're full-time. Over the course of, for the summer, like just this summer in 2020, we have 10 core Pakira team members that are working most of the time, and we have 11